You asked what my expectations were when I started school. I didn't really have any expectations, I think. I expected it to be eye-opening, expected it to be inspiring, but specifically I didn't know, what was going to happen day to day. I didn't know what was going to be expected of me. I didn't know, what my routine would become, or, what kind of setting I'd be in, or what kind of people I'd be surrounded by. So it's not that my expectations were low, I just expected to not know what to expect. Okay, we're at the SVA MFA Fine Arts Studios. We're on 21st between 6th and 7th. This is the 9th floor. There's also studios on the 8th floor. So there's about 60 people total in the program. My experience at SVA has been a mixed one. There's been times when I've been annoyed at the system that's in place here, and other times when I'm thrilled to be around the people that I'm surrounded by. But I wouldn't take it back for anything. Most of the students who are quite a bit younger than me, which I wasn't surprised about, were really ready to kind of claim an area from the start, claiming that they were painters and they'd only paint and that's all they'd ever do. And it was surprising to me that that kind of artist, not that that kind of artist existed, but that would be the one who would be interested in going to grad school. I was a graphic designer in San Francisco at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art for I think a little over 10 years. So I came in thinking that maybe I'd turn that background into some form of art in a way, instead of utilizing what I knew from that world. I feel like when I got here I kind of gave it up in a way. I felt like I needed to kind of loosen up. I think that's maybe always going to be part of me, something I can't totally unlearn, but I felt like I've done a pretty good job of kind of working around that in ways that have kind of opened up other ideas and other ways to see things and other ways to work with materials and other ways to think about making.
So what are we looking at?
This is a chair that's been covered by a costume, the Statue of Liberty costume at Battery City Park. There's a bunch of people in New York City that dress up like the Statue of Liberty, take tips from people who take pictures with them. And I knew that there was someone in Battery Park City that did that, so I went down there to talk to him because I wanted to do a photo shoot with him. But when I got to the location he's usually at, he was somewhere else, but his costume was there. Just resting there on his chair. I liked the resulting image of him, being away from his costume. I'm kind of looking at ideas surrounding concealment. I found that I'm noticing a lot of things that are covered or in some way meant to be hidden. I find them to be sometimes more conspicuous than those things that are just out in the open. It's kind of a strange phenomenon, so I'm trying to kind of explore that and find out if that's a strategy for making art. The beginning of my process with that was to go around town photographing things that I found that were covered or concealed in some way, collecting kind of imagery that would sync up with each other. So this is the kind of thing I'm looking for when I'm walking around with my camera, or not even looking for, but it just kind of pops out. Something you'd walk by normally without thinking about, but they kind of they call attention to themselves in a way. They started printing them out and then printing them out quite large in the end, and that kind of led to showing these photographs as like large prints that were mounted to board in black and white. And I was interested in the way that these things that I was photographing on the street all of a sudden became very animated. And then from there, I kind of felt like this was kind of comfortable territory for me, like photographing and then displaying those photographs in a certain way. And I wanted to get away from kind of representing something else. Instead, I wanted to make the thing itself. So I started making what I was calling coverings, and I was using fishing net and weaving surveyor's tape through it and presenting that in different ways. I was hanging it on the wall from a few different points, and also using kind of these colorful green poles to kind of drape the coverings over. I felt like they were kind of like a good transition piece for me, because I was always struggling with doing things that were familiar to me. I was working with grids and right angles, which I think sort of goes back to my graphic design training. By using kind of a soft material, I was able to do something that was in a grid. The fishing net, essentially was a grid, but that was able to kind of melt away. There was one piece that was hung from the wall from 3 points, and these things, kind of take on whatever shape, gravity forces them into. So, though I didn't intend for it to, a lot of people thought, looked like images that they remember from Abu Ghraib. It reminded some people of like shamanistic dress. Someone else thought it reminded them of, I think it's called a ghillie suit, camouflage garment that a sniper would wear. So these ideas came up when people experienced the work that I couldn't have expected, and that made me feel really good that this thing went beyond, my hands and my ideas. It was like, became what they wanted it to be, or what they kind of thought it should be or could be. And for me, that was really rewarding. This 2-year program goes by very quickly, and it'd be nice if there was a third year. I think some of us feel like we're just kind of hitting our stride, if we are hitting our stride now, like at the end of this 2-year process. But at the same time, I think if you're committed to making art, then it's not just about being in school, and it's like a lifelong process. And for me, this has been, the beginning of that process, essentially, from leaving a career in graphic design to moving into pursuing a career in art, only 2 years into that, and to think, wow, I've kind of come a long way in that 2 years. That makes me feel pretty good. Like, I feel like I've got a lot more in me. So it was a good choice. And I'm glad I was here, and I'm happy to have the 2 months I have left. It's not over yet. I'm 37 at the moment. And I think, being older in this situation, going through grad school at my age, I've come to expect a certain quality of life, and I think I don't really want to regress in a way. So it's hard to imagine, starving any more than I'm starving already. The basic things like just having enough money to eat and pay the rent. Those are the things that I worry about. And I probably could, really turn my focus back to graphic design and have a fairly comfortable lifestyle. But I really want to keep making art as well. So I'm hoping that I can kind of keep the two channels kind of going simultaneously and work for money and also be working on my own projects, my own creation. That freedom that comes along with making art and being influenced by everything around you rather than having like a client come to you with a project, that really means a lot to me at this point.